Hi everyone, today we will be discussing about target costing. Target costing basically involves setting a target cost by looking at the competitive selling price and then deducting a desired profit margin from that competitive selling price to arrive at the target cost. Target costing is it's basically more of a marketing approach where we look at the similar products in the market and the selling price for those products. And then because we want to compete, so we would also relatively set a similar selling price to our competitors so that we can attract more demand. In target costing, it's not only about cost, but here there is some value analysis approach which is also being performed to identify what features of the product would normally be regarded as a value-added features by the customers and which of the features would be regarded as non-value-added features. So basically, the plan is to design out majority of the cost in the initial stage before the launch by identifying the customer needs and preferences and then setting a price which is competitive, so it helps us to attract more demand for our product. And if we will now look into more details as we discussed already about the target costing approach, how it is calculated. Target costing is, by the way, also associated with one of the pricing strategies we will discuss later on, market-based pricing, where our price is, in a way set to compete with the market. So the steps that are being involved, first of all, as we discussed already, we have to identify a competitive selling price for similar products. Maybe other products are not same, but at least similar. So what are the selling price for those similar products? And more or less, we will also use the same selling price. And then what our shareholders expect from us, this is what we have to apply. And that desired profit margin is then subtracted, as you can see, from a competitive selling price. So once it is subtracted, we actually arrive at the target cost, which is a calculation. And by the way, part of syllabus area where we have to actually we have to identify this one, derive a target cost in manufacturing and service industries. So yeah, we will be basically doing this calculation as well. We will practice one of the questions, how to calculate the target cost. And then now his target cost is based on the market situation and what our shareholders expect from us. On the other hand, the way we are currently producing, the way we are currently making our product, our operations, all the cost will be estimated, and it would then be compared with the target cost, because normally target cost is expected to be less than the estimated cost, right? So there will be a challenge. The challenge is that because the way we are currently doing our cost is high, but the way we are supposed to approach our cost should be less. So it means that there is some gap, and that gap is called target cost gap. Our next approach should be to take steps to reduce this target cost gap. Since we are in the planning stage, we can design out the product cost. We can make some changes in our value chain and be able to reduce the cost. So one of the approaches which is used, as we were earlier discussing about understanding the customer's preferences as well, is value analysis or value engineering. What is value analysis or value engineering? Value analysis basically helps us to identify what our customers want from us. What do they view as value added features and what do they view as non-value added features. So our focus will be on identifying the use value of the product for the customer and esteem value. And what we will try to achieve is, from customer's point of view, we will try to provide them those features that they consider as value added at a required quality level. Yes, we want to reduce our cost, but we don't want to compromise on quality. So it will be a challenging task, and as the market situation will change, maybe our competitors' selling prices are adjusted later on, so we have to again adjust our selling price. So it's going to be an ongoing process for any organization to be able to reduce the cost gap and be able to compete with other products and other competitors in the market. Now, one of the other syllabus areas we have is how to actually reduce this cost gap. Okay, once the cost gap has been identified, our next approach should be to try to reduce that cost. And as I said earlier, we should try to design out the product since we are at the planning stage. So what are the different ways in which we can actually achieve this cost gap? This could be one of the requirements in our exam. As I said, if you look at one of the syllabus areas we have here, is suggest how target cost gap might be closed out. Okay, so when we are addressing this part of our syllabus, we have to address these issues that how it could be reduced. So one of the suggestions could be to change the design of the product in a way that it consumes less material, which would effectively reduce our material cost. But keeping in mind at the back end that the value analysis has been performed and the customer uh, has not much to worry about the change in the design of our product. And then also if there are some in the initial plan, there are some features which customer regard as non-value added features, those features could be removed in a way to reduce our cost, but making sure that the quality of the product should not be affected. The other suggestions could include that we should buy raw material in bulk quantities. So maybe we can have some bulk discount. And other possible suggestions could be to look for an alternate material which could be acquired at a lower cost to reduce the material cost if possible, and if it is being assessed as part of value analysis. Then on the other hand, if it is a machine based production, and then there is, let's say, less input or less skills of labor required for that particular process, so we can also consider reducing labor cost in a way that the overall cost gets reduced. And then, as we discussed earlier previously about activity-based costing, and one of the major advantages of activity-based costing is that you identify the cause of the cost. So for overheads, if you know about the cost driver, particularly the non-volume based activities, you can control the impact of those cost drivers to control your fixed overheads as well. And especially when it's a non-volume based activity, like batch size can be increased or decreased because setup cost is assumed to be a non-volume based activity, which means it will remain same irrespective of how many units you will produce in a single batch. So if we increase the batch size, it is possible that the number of setups will get reduced, and as a result our overheads cost will also be reduced. So this is one of the syllabus areas that we have to address. And other than that, we have to also explain the difficulties of using target costing in service industries. Now, if you look at most of these suggestions coming for cost gap, we are talking about changing the design of the product, buying material in bulk. We're talking about the labor, overheads is also there. But initially, first 3 points you will see are more of associated with the manufacturing organizations. So same is the case with activity-based costing. Even in activity-based costing, there could be some challenges. Although service organizations have the fixed overhead, so it could be used in activity-based costing in service organizations as well. But the problem is identification of cost drivers for each respective cost. So here, what do we have in service organizations? That the service itself has certain features or characteristics which differentiates it from the manufacturing organization, which have been mentioned here. But the key here is, what is target costing? Yes, target costing can be used for service organizations. Service organizations have their competitors. They want to set their selling price at a competing level, looking at their competitors. But at the same time, if we look at, what is the exercise going on here is that we identify that cost gap and then we take steps to reduce that cost gap. Now, the challenge we have in service organization is that majority of our cost is fixed. In service organization, what is your majority of the cost? Rent, salaries, okay, and these costs are most of the costs are fixed. So when you will try to reduce the cost gap and you look at the cost and you realize that most of the costs are fixed, which could not be reduced in the short term, so it means that, in other words, the scope of cost reduction would be limited here. If a service organization will try to implement target costing, yes, they can, but when they will try to reduce the cost gap, they might face challenges in a way that because the fixed cost, which is a major proportion of their total cost, it cannot be reduced in the short term. So this is what we have as a topic from target costing. Now, in next step, we will be doing